How's it going, everyone? Classy here, and now I have the Samsung QN90A 65-inch, and my cat Corin interrupted the last video of the G1, so now my dog Leia wants to do the same. Named after Princess Leia, of course. You can see the G1 is here going through some break-in slides, and I will be comparing these side by side. Alright, now that the top is free, let's see what's in here. Got the remote and a little baggie. A little quick setup guide and the stand. And then once you have the stuff out of the top, you just lift the box over the TV. Alright, so now with the box slipped off, the foam all around it, I'm going to lay it down and then pull the bottom foam off to put the stand on it. Alright, so here is the stand with the two pieces assembled, and all I did is I shoved the bottom of the foam under the TV and under the foam that protects the TV to lift it up, and then you just lift the stand, slot it into place. Backside we have the ports coming out this direction on the, if you're looking at the TV, would be the right side. Power cable comes out the other side. There's the stand. It's a very nice brushed aluminum look to the back. So when I turned it on, there was a voice guidance. It said a few things, nothing important. But we're going to do a quick setup here. So first, saw that little icon. The remote has the solar panel on the back. So that's kind of cool. Although, I don't get much light in this room, so I'm not sure how that's going to work for me. So I'm going to do a remote control setup here. I have my receiver connected to the eARC port, which is HDMI 3. And I have my Xbox Series X connected to the game port, the HDMI 2.1 port, which is HDMI 4. So it is telling me to turn on the device. So I'm going to turn on the Xbox. And I'm going to turn on my receiver. And I turned on my UHD Blu-ray player that's connected to the receiver. So we're going to hit auto setup. Alright, so I cut out the part where it just popped up asking for the Wi-Fi connection. Now I personally don't care, I just hit agree to all. You could skip, it looks like. It's checking for updates. Now I already had plugged this in and played with it a little bit, and then I did a factory reset to bring up this whole startup again. So otherwise you would be sitting here for 5-10 minutes while it does an update. Now I'm gonna cut this part out as well. Alright, once you're logged in, this lets you save your home screen and different settings for if you get a future TV or another one. Alright, here's your voice assistant setup. You can pick between Samsung's Bixby, Amazon Alexa, or Google Assistant. I don't use them, but let's just try Bixby, why not? Alright, so if you wanted to set up your apps to use on the TV system, then you can do that here. But I use a streaming device like the Shield, so I'm not going to. That is extremely bright. There's no way the camera is picking this up anywhere close to what I'm seeing in person. Like that is just incredibly bright. Take intelligent mode. Alright, I will not be using that. home. Go to my source. Alright. Alright, well, while we're loading up the Spears and Munzel disk, okay, let's look into some of the settings here. So sound is set to the receiver, that's good. What do we have here? eARC, I went on. Digital audio output, I went pass through. Atmos, sound feedback, okay. Alright, so here's your game mode menu. It's kind of surprising it's buried this far into the settings, but it is what it is. Alright, so that's got to be for like the deep color, whatever they used to call it, to make the HDMI port run at full bandwidth. CEC is for connect, like if you hit the power button and turn on the TV, then it would turn on your other connected devices like your receiver and so on. Game mode settings, so there's off, on, and auto, so might as well hit auto. Not going to be able to view anything until we get over to the Xbox. Got AirPlay settings, power and energy, brightness optimization, so I would want that off. That off. Off. Screensaver don't matter. Power off, off. Here's your battery in the remote. So here's where you can check for an update. Alright. So that's all that stuff. Now for the good stuff. Picture mode. So let's start with Filmmaker. Alright, we want fit to screen turned on. There's only that setting. So it's going to default with, I guess we're in HDR, so that's why that's turned up. Let me, hang on, I want to do SDR first. Let's start with a clipping pattern. Man, that's still really bright. Did it switch into SDR? Yeah, it did. It is just bright. Like, I would expect Filmmaker SDR mode to be like that. So no green clipping, no red clipping. White is clipping a little. Blue is clipping a lot. And I can't really see much in the black one. Let me turn that up just a little bit. Let's go 15. Contrast. Alright, so at 40, the contrast is not clipping. So Samsung really doesn't care about clipping, I can tell. Yeah, that brought the blue down as well, so looks like you need to turn your contrast down to 40. Gonna leave that alone. Alright, so for SDR, you might want this on low, because it does seem to darken everything. I know on HDR, standard does not follow the EOTF curve. I believe high does. I'm going to have to measure this and find out for sure. For SDR, just for right now, I'm going to put it on low, but I will check more into that. Contrast enhancer, we want off. Color tone warm 2 is good. Gamma at BT 1886, I guess that's all we get for 2.4. And then we have fine adjustment here, so I can measure what puts us at 2.4. Shadow detail. If I turn this up, oh yeah, that does not look right in the black. And turning it down, it clips too much. So, alright, my battery's died in the camera, so where were we? Alright, so I'm going to go back to the shadow detail. I'm going to leave this pattern. I'm going to go to the brightness checking. Alright, so it looks like I can actually see it flashing all the way down. So if I go -1, there we go. Alright, so now you can see what I'm seeing. So if I turn the shadow detail back to 0, now it's really hard for you to see what I'm seeing, but there's little dots showing where it should be flashing to, and I can see that at 0. And if I go -1, I can make out the flashing just to those dots as well. So I think I'm going to use -1 and then close out of this. Oh my god. And I'm going to go to this pattern. Yep, this looks good. So it looks like it's -1 on the shadow detail. Will help the black levels a little bit. Here, I'm going to play the demo in SDR and then just see how it looks while adjusting settings. Now let's try the local dimming. Standard brightens everything up. High seems to go kind of in the middle of the two. Well, it's hard to tell because it kind of changes a little bit after you select it. Low is definitely the darkest. But for SDR, you don't need bright, especially if you're setting up your nighttime viewing. So again, I'm going to leave it on low for SDR. Probably use high in HDR. And you want to make sure the color is set to auto. If you were to do native, it just, it'll force the native color range of the TV, not what the material was graded with. Alright, so that's it for SDR, just for some quick settings. Because this is just so freaking bright. Still in Filmmaker, 50, 50, that's okay. Local dimming high. Wow, I don't even think I need to really mess with anything here. Yeah, I don't. Wow. Like, there's no way this camera can capture anything close to what I'm seeing. So if I increase the camera so that, like, the brightness, like, pretty much that bright, but that detailed. Alright, now this audio is in post, so I'm just letting that HDR Spears and Munzel demo play, and just going to give some thoughts about the TV up to this point. There's no way to describe how bright the TV is that the camera cannot pick up, so you would need to see it in person to really experience how bright it can get. Especially in any bright scenes where there's not a lot of dark areas. That is the only time it really seems to struggle with brightness, is if it's a darker scene, then it wants to try and focus on keeping the blacks in check and the blooming as much as it can, keep that in check, and at the expense of the brightness and HDR details. So I'll have a video later with a actual review showing that in HDR highlights, in dark scenes, it can't push them very much, but in scenes like this where it's just overall a very bright scene, that's where the TV shines. Everything is just incredibly bright. It can beat most direct lights hitting the screen, or if you have just an extremely bright room. The downside is if you are used to OLED or you have had an OLED, the dark areas you will see the blooming and the raised near blacks. If you're not coming from OLED, then it may be difficult for you to see. You know, this feather around some of the finer ones at the top, you can see the little bit of the blooming there, and around this right here you can see a little bit of blooming, but the camera doesn't capture it very well. I don't want this video to be extremely long, so I'm going to move on to gaming now. Alright, now really quickly I'm going to set up the Xbox Series X. So I just want to jump into settings, see what all is supported. We know there's going to be no Dolby Vision. 4K, 120, so all of this is correct. So we are in SDR at the moment. Let's see what the TV is defaulting to. Remember, I had set the game mode to auto, so it did auto detect, which is good. Brightness is extremely high. I mean, it's like in SDR you don't need that unless it's a really, really bright room, which I don't have. So I'm just gonna use 25 for right now. Again, we know contrast clips over 40, so I'm going to set that to 40. You don't need any added sharpness, so we're going to turn that down. It does boost color a little bit in game mode, so let's put that back. Alright, contrast enhancer. It may look good to you and add some pop. The problem is it doesn't actually increase like brightness at all. It increases the mid-range. So I'm going to turn that off. Again, local dimming on high I think is more accurate. Again, I have to measure this to make sure, but that's what I've seen. Standard doesn't follow any, accuracy EOTF curves. And then low really darkens the image. For gaming, even if it is SDR, I'm going to go ahead and just use high for now. Color, we want to set that to warm 2. I will check white balance when I start measuring. The gamma for gaming, I'm going to go with 2.2. Shadow detail, so here we cannot make the eye visible with shadow detail. Color space, native is going to make everything like super crazy oversaturated. So we're going to go auto. Brightness on this TV is not black level brightness like the Xbox is saying. This is just purely the backlight level. So it's not going to change anything here. So we're going to keep that, again, at 25. It's the shadow detail here that affects the black level. And you can see nothing is making that eye visible. And from what we saw earlier, -1 was more accurate, so I'm going to do that. If we do BT1886, we can adjust the gamma, so we can try. Yeah, no, it's not making that eye visible. So we'll stick with 2.2. I think these settings here should be pretty good overall. See, on the Xbox, though, you can go up to 50 and it doesn't clip white. But I know it's going to clip blue. So you can use 40 to make sure there's no clipping. Maybe go 45 if you don't mind a little bit of color clipping for added contrast for gaming. Let's go back to that eye real quick. Yeah, even in game mode, this doesn't make that visible either. Alright, now if we do HDR information. So it looks like game HDR should be HGIG. So I would want to have that enabled. You want to have all this alone except for the sharpness we can bring down. And the color we'll put back to the default 25. Keep local dimming on high. Color tone warm 2. So we'll go ahead and leave all that alone at this point and set up the Xbox. So if we want true black, don't worry about what this says. Just go all the way left. And on this screen, even with HDIG, for some reason, it wants to go really far. So this is 300 nits all the way left. I ended up measuring the TV between 1800 and 1900 nits. So just each click to the right is 50 and count your way up to about 1800 and you should be good. Same thing here. Just keep counting 50 at a time, starting at 300 up to 1800. The camera is not adjusted here to show that it was detailed on the left. Alright, so this ended up running quite a bit longer than I was expecting. Here to finish up is some reflection handling of the TV, which is quite good. I will have follow-up videos with a final review for the QN90A, a comparison against the LG G1, and also a comparison against a 5-year-old Samsung, the KS8000. I wanted this to be the first video in the QN90A series, but I had to release something else the other day and just didn't work out that way due to my schedule. So sorry about that. But if you made it to the end, thank you for watching. And please remember to press the like button as it will help other people to find it. Keep an eye out for more content coming soon. And that's it. Thanks again for watching. Have a good one.